Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad. In today's program, we are going to discuss the promises and prospects of Special Investment Facilitation Council. Now, this Special Investment Facilitation Council was established in June 2023 and it focuses on attracting the foreign investment and subsequently stabilizing the economic outlook of the country. It basically focuses on key areas including agriculture and livestock, mines and minerals, IT and telecom, energy and defense industry also. Now, SIFC basically aims to create an investment-friendly environment by creating a single window operation. Also, we have seen that Army will facilitate and coordinate with the federal and the provincial authorities to get the bottlenecks removed and ensure smooth foreign investment as well. Let me bring in a statement by the caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwarul Haq Kakar, regarding SIFC. He said that SIFC measures are yielding positive results. The caretaker government has taken steps to create a conducive business environment and provide facilities to private sector to contribute to the country's development and increase the tax revenue. Also, on another occasion, the Prime Minister said the next government must ensure the continuity in policies by capitalizing on the positive momentum established by the Council in the largest interest of the country as well. Likewise, a very important statement has come forth by Federal Minister for Information Technology and Telecommunication, Dr. Omar Saif, and he has said that 5G services will be launched by July and August this year in the country, and 300 megahertz spectrum will be offered for auction. He went on to say that the caretaker government has successfully achieved 13 out of 15 goals set to promote the IT sector and increase its exports within a brief period of 5 months. Also, another very important development that is going to happen tomorrow. Pakistan will sign a joint venture agreement between Pakistan Mineral Development Corporation and the United States Mineral Salt Collective Incorporation. This particular partnership is aimed to revolutionize Pakistan's unique rock salt industry. All these aspects are for discussion in today's show. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Dr. Khalid Waleed. He's an economist at Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Dr. Waleed, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to have been joined by Mr. Sultan Ali Haider. He's expert political economy. Mr. Haider, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to have been joined by Dr. Hassan Daud. He is a former Chief Executive Officer of the KP Board of Investment. Dr. Butt, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Let me begin with the very basics, Dr. Waleed. When we talk about, since we know that there were immense economic challenges Pakistan had to face with at that particular time back in June 2023, when this Special Investment Facilitation Council was established, we had seen the devastation that had been caused by the epic floods of summer 2022, and then there was also a risk of default for Pakistan, which was successfully avoided by the prudent policies of the authorities at that particular time. So establishing such a forum at that particular critical juncture in Pakistan's history to attract the foreign investment, what's your understanding of that? What's your general view regarding this?
Well, Jawad, thank you so much. I would say that in terms of basic economics or theoretical economics, there are two aspects. One is qualitative, second is quantitative. When your quantitative indicators are not supporting your economy, the qualitative indicators matter, and those qualitative indicators are confidence, coordination and credibility. What I perceive from this practice establishing the SIFC is ensuring these three C's in terms of credibility, confidence and coordination, which will obviously boosted the confidence of industry, brought investments from public sector, private sector. In terms of credibility, contract reinforcements and different sort of measures that also complemented this confidence in the industry. So I would say that bringing these two quantitative and qualitative sides of economics together, SIFC has played a very vital role. This could be extended and this should be extended for a better prosperity of Pakistan. Again, I would say that another role that SIFC has done for Pakistan is bringing stakeholders together, not only within Pakistan, but private sector investments, obviously the regions together to invest more in Pakistan. So I would say in terms of these 3 C's, credibility, confidence and coordination, the role of SIFC was very phenomenal. We can see this or judge this by improved numbers or quantitative. So qualitative measures in terms of boosting these 3 C's definitely reflected into quantitative measures as well. We have seen that the growth rate has improved. Pakistan's inflation is now coming down, and there are investments coming into Pakistan, and confidence is rehabilitated.
So things are already on a positive trajectory as far as SIFC is concerned, attracting that foreign investment and passing over that particular critical point in history when Pakistan was faced with economic difficulties at that particular time when it was established. Now, Mr. Haider, what's your understanding when we talk about the wisdom and the vision behind this particular initiative? When Pakistan was going through, was standing at a critical juncture when there were economic difficulties at that particular point in time?
You see, the economic difficulties, they were more of a catalyst because we were under so much of pressure, and we didn't have foreign exchange reserves, significant foreign exchange reserves. And one of the ways to get foreign exchange reserves is FDI. And so under that crunch pressure, we looked at what could be the different avenues. Now, if you look at FDI coming into Pakistan, I would say our FDI was really anemic. In the 90s, it started to go up. Then again, it stagnated. Then in Musharraf era, for 2-3 years, it did get a boost, and we went to about $500 million, you can say, $300, $400, $500 million. But that was only for 3 years. I would say maybe 2006, 7, and 8. After that, again, it tanked. So irrespective of the last 3 regimes, it has averaged around $150 to $250 million at best. So it's very anemic. If you look at Pakistan is a very large country in terms of population. Now it's the 5th most populous country, right? So in that quantum, and we have an English-speaking population. So I have worked on similar transactions, right? So Pakistan as a country, it has lots of advantages. One of the advantages is it has a large English-speaking population. Its legal system is based on English common law. So ideally, a lot of investment should be flowing. Now that there was a lot of frustration and constant regime changes and different political parties coming into power and all of that, what was required was that that there should be some continuity in policies, right? So what SIFC what's doing is it's sort of grabbing the bull by the horns, addressing that concern. If I'm a foreign investor, I'm coming in, I do not want to be bothered that this regime has changed. So I came in previous government's time, now new government has come in and all of that. So from that angle, it was a requirement, fundamental requirement. There should be somebody. BOI did not have enough teeth to really push through the agenda and to ensure continuity. And the whole economic crunch environment, it created perhaps the right time.
So Mr. Haider, when you talk of that particular confidence among the foreign investors when it comes to the continuity of the policies from one government to another, with that particular transition of the government and the authorities, the policies on the economic front don't change. That actually garners a sort of a confidence in the minds of the foreign investors that they are looking forward to invest in a certain and in that regard, when we talk about the long-term impact on the country's economy itself, so how crucial and important that continuity of the policies, despite the happens to be a transition from one government to another, how that happens to be important and crucial for that country itself, besides, of course, as you already mentioned, increasing that investors' confidence.
You see, any project, any large project, right? So now we are talking about bringing in large quantums of investment, right? So if you're talking about big industries and big projects, and you're talking about investing billions of dollars, right? Companies would be coming in, they would perform their due diligence, they would be setting up their businesses. That in itself, that process can take a few years. So they are not only invested in time, they are also invested in money. And then they would want their businesses to prosper, and then they will start taking out or reaping profits, right? So since it's a call, they have to take a call on the country, not only for Because, okay, we are really good. I think we have a very good system where people are coming and invest in the stock market. But we see FDI coming in, and as soon as there's some turbulence, people take money out and then take it out of the country, and that is why we go through these shocks. So and we need long-term investment, because the long-term investment is there, it will create jobs, and then one industry gives rise to other industries, because if you have large investment, you attract large number of people also, then the whole economy of that city develops. Right, so different SMEs then feed into that business. For example, we see the example of automotive industry, right? So once we had these Toyota or Honda plants, then we had a lot of OEMs feeding into that industry. Then other businesses develop. So the question that you were asking in terms of the long term, we need these big ticket long-term investments and industries coming in.
And for that, continuity of the policy from one government to another is of utmost importance in that regard. We are joined by Dr. Hassan Daud Butt on Skype. Dr. Butt, thank you very much for joining in at Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. We are discussing the promises and the prospects of a Special Investment Facilitation Council, and it was established this particular forum that identifies certain key areas to attract the foreign investment, and it was established at that particular critical juncture when Pakistan was faced with immense economic difficulties. So how do you understand the wisdom and the vision and the far-sightedness of the authorities here in Pakistan regarding this?
Well, thank you very much. I think in terms of, and the earlier guests also spoke about it in a great details, but for me, as if I look at the overall creation of SIFC with an investor standpoint, I think we needed an institution, an organization, one window which could actually resolve and solve some of the problems that investors have. And one of the major problems that our investors have coming in with FDI is, can you hear me?
Please go ahead, Dr. Butt, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, my apologies. So one of the major problems that our investors have is the continuity of policy, and then a framework and a mechanism wherein, the provinces can actually follow on the roadmap that the federal government gives. And I hope you understand that after the 18th Amendment, investment is a provincial subject. So therefore, as an investor, when you come in and when you move from Islamabad to perhaps one of the provincial capitals, the challenges grow, because the understanding, the capacity of the bureaucracy to handle those investment remains a challenge. And also then again, the synergy that we require also is sometimes missing. So for that, I think I endorse the creation of SIFC. But I would also like to advise certain aspects and highlight some of the challenges still those exist, and I think we can have that discussion later in the program.
Yeah, I'll give you the chance to come up with the details regarding whatever you have to say regarding that. Now, when you talk of this particular investment being a provincial matter or a provincial subject, so a lot of things get involved on a bureaucratic level at that particular point when there is investment coming in. Now, you already mentioned provision of one window operation. Now, how important it was to bring this particular idea into operation in order to remove all those bottlenecks or any sort of delays that might be associated with going from one window to another and just giving one window where the investors can have all the facilities available.
Yeah, the challenges that are there in of attracting the investment and then securing that investment. Working on investment overall in Pakistan are aware of, and even people who are working on the government aware of. And there are certain policies which secures and gives security to that. How much can we have the capacity to implement those policies is still a challenge. And let me give you a few examples on this. So, say, for example, the key sectors that SIFC has identified are agriculture, mines and minerals, IT sector. And all of us know the natural endowment that we have and the size of population that we have. So in order to attract investment, we create a good case. And I can give my example when we went to Expo in Dubai. There were several MOUs; those were signed but could not be materialized because of the capacity of the bureaucracy. And also, more than capacity, I also believe the attitude of the bureaucracy. So unless we have that attitude in which we can create that enabling environment, SIFC would also have those challenges. So for me, the biggest point that I would like to coin right now would be that, while you create that enabling environment, while you create that digital connectivity, I think the overall conduct of the people who are in and to showcase some of our potential, I think our presentations, our marketing strategy should not be one size fit all, which generally is. And we cannot have a typical government public sector approach, laid back approach in attracting investment. And also, in terms of religious context to this, our religion always speaks on keeping our promises. So in our policies, from SEZ Act to SEZ policy and all the other incentives that we offer to the investors, I think we should keep those. And the case in point is the energy sector, where we still have challenges, and perhaps that in itself is building bad narrative for us to attract investment in Pakistan.
Right, Dr. But when we talk about already, I've discussed this point with one of our participants present in the studio. I'd like to bring this particular point to you as well. When you talk about the continuity of the policies, you also in your take at the very outset mentioned this particular thing, the continuity of the policies. Now, this particular SIFC was established back in June 2023. Then there was a transition of the government, and the caretaker government came in, and they also pledged to keep on continuing with this particular policy of these particular forums, especially the SIFC as well as the Green Revolution Initiative, Green Pakistan Initiative, when we specifically talk about. Now, one of our participants, Mr. Haider, is of the view that it basically increases that confidence among the foreign investors when they are confident, when they're sure that the policies are not going to change with the change of the government or the authority in a specific country. So, what's your understanding regarding that? If you could shed a little bit of light on that particular aspect, as well as how important and crucial it happens to be, this continuity of policy for a certain specific country in the longer run. What are the longer run dividends for a certain country in that regard?
It goes without saying that continuity of policy is important, and we cannot highlight this any further. For me, the most important aspect is the narrative that is built about Pakistan and for attracting investment is Pakistan, that in Pakistan, there is no synergy among stakeholders and even in provinces. So while we set up this SIFC, which essentially is an internal mechanism to support the overall investment attraction regime, foreign investors who's coming from abroad and is not aware of our internal dynamics, for them, I think the biggest point and the biggest selling point is perhaps the fact that all stakeholders of our great country are part of this SIFC. It's led by the Prime Minister, and it involves all essential important stakeholders, including the military. So when this is reflected outside, and when people coming to invest in Pakistan see that all stakeholders are across the table, they are taking decisions based on consensus and also knowledge, then this gives a lot of confidence to them. And when this confidence translates into actual investment, it brings a lot of support to the overall sectors that we've been speaking about. You go and go and witness any of the roadshows that we've done in the past. We've been speaking and highlighting the natural endowment. We are the 5th largest producer of milk, the largest producer amongst the top 10 largest producers of rice, and several other aspects. But whether we've been able to export our potential abroad, whether we've been able to showcase that in the real term, I think that remains a challenge. And that would also remain a challenge for SIFC if they do not involve stakeholders from private sector who are actually working on investment for several years. And how we can do that, because policy making is relatively easier, especially in a developing country like Pakistan, than implementing those policies. So when you work on policies, and one of the examples that I would give you is the industrial policy. We talk about greening of our industry. We talk about bringing in renewable energy for supporting our industry, cheap. But we do not at this point have our industrial policy. So everything that we do would not come into place unless we have those policies, because when you reach out to the investor, the first thing that you offer are those papers in which it highlights the incentives, it highlights the industries which are being promoted by the government. So I think SIFC can do that. SIFC can help implement those policies which are existing and create that synergy amongst the provinces, because while we have a federal board of investment, the challenge in the past has been that the provincial board of investment, and I've been CEO of one of the provincial board of investment, find themselves without the capacity. Their human resource element is lacking, and also their exposure is missing. And when we are talking about over $1 million of investment coming to Pakistan, people who are working on those investments should have the exposure to at least know how many zeros are in a million. So that's one of the aspects. And when
right,
you put
your point is well taken, Dr. Bhatt. I'll come back to you. Let me bring in other participants into the discussion. Also, I see your partner from the dejection over here. Please stay with us. Dr. Waleed, now your understanding, if you want to shed a little bit of light regarding as to the continuity of the policies in terms of building that investor confidence, as well as the longer term dividends for the country itself.
Well, in terms of continuity of policy, one particular regard is that Pakistan was following a development model that was unbalanced growth model, which means that you build a one sector and that one sector will lead the economy and will boost the economy's other sector. But what we have seen from the SIFC coming is that its development model is spread across the sectors, from mining to from IT, which means that there is forward linkages, backward linkages, which creates an ecosystem for investors to come. That is what we need in terms of long-term sustainability of Pakistan. So this should be continued under the broader ambit of whatever the apex authority, which can boost this confidence, which can bring credibility, and which can coordinate not only the internal stakeholders but external as well. Dr. Bhatt has mentioned a very particular point in terms of building integration between federal government and provinces and among the provinces as well. This is the point which is lacking, I would say, and SIFC and similar forums can help this out in terms of building integration. Whenever an investor, particularly the foreign investors, they come into a country, they want political stability, they want stable market, they want not the volatility, they want smoother operations so that their investments can bring forth the return that they desires. So what we need to do is we need to spread this across the sectors so that one sector is bleeding into another sector. So we create this a chain reaction, one sector supporting other sector, and we build this forward and backward change.
That gives us an idea of a more sustainable economic front by creation of such an ecosystem that is spread across different sectors that include agriculture and livestock, IT and telecom, mines and minerals, energy, petroleum and power, industry, tourism and privatization, as well as the defense sector. By looking at this particular list of the identified areas, I mean, how do you relate all these areas when it comes to the sustainability of this particular ecosystem that is spread across these sectors?
Well, I would say the binding power or binding factor for these all sectors which bring all these sectors together is IT sector. If we build IT sector that can support all the sectors and can bring this under the broader ambit of sustainable development policy. Second thing is that Pakistan's population.
What I understand is that you keep information technology as the pivot point around all these. Why is that so?
Keep IT sector as a pivot point. Looking into our demographic dividends aspect as well, taking our youth and equipping them with highest and state-of-the-art IT sector technologies, so that we are building not only the IT sector, but we are building the capacity of our labor force, of our population, which Dr. Bhatt rightly mentioned that there is a capacity gap which we need to fulfill to bring foreign investors, to bring private sector investors, so that not only the investment is concentrated in one sector of the economy, it is spreaded to all the sector of the economy, so we achieve this balanced growth. And with that balanced growth, we follow that Rostovian model of economic growth, which tells us that we need to have this platform, and then we take off, and then we go for the higher growth. So we need to build that platform first, then aim for the takeoff, and then we can have this long-term sustainable economic growth. This can be built through IT, through demographic dividend, keeping them together, to spread them all across sectors, and then we can achieve this sustainable and long-term economic development plus economic growth as well. This can be done not only with indicators or quantitative side of the economy, or we are focusing just on the numbers, but building perceptions, building the qualitative side of the economy would be as imperative as the numbers.
So when you talk of demographic dividend, you straight away mean to say it's about that youth bulge that we do have here in Pakistan, and that can actually be associated directly with IT being the pivot point for all these sectors.
Just to add one point is that Pakistan's #1 export is not the physical commodities, it is Pakistan's manpower that we export to the other countries, particularly to Middle Eastern countries and Europe and America, which brings send us back the remittances that we direly need.
So we need to. So we basically are exporting human resource in terms of physical labor to the other countries when it comes to the IT sector. So can we also understand that not necessarily Pakistan has to export the resource in physical terms, but rather they can transfer their skills and sell skills by sitting within the territory of Pakistan. I'll take your detailed view regarding this very important aspect. Now, Mr. Haider, according to you, out of these 5-6 sectors, the key areas that have been identified under SIFC, which happens to you the pivot point of it? For the creation of that sustainable ecosystem that Dr. Waleed has just mentioned.
I think I tend to agree with him. That in addition, one additional thing that he mentioned was that previously our governments would focus on one sector, right? For example, perhaps in 80s, 90s, textiles was the key sector, and the whole country would be focused on textiles. The good thing, the different approach is it's a very broad-based approach, and it's not an approach based on that, okay, let's focus on this industry and there'll be some trickle-down effect and everything will develop eventually. The approach is looking at what are the different strong areas of Pakistan, right? So why not try to develop them in parallel, right? So I think that is another aspect. I think another pivot rather would be that simultaneously, for example, the areas where we have minerals, in those areas we do not have agriculture, right? Where we have agriculture, it's not a mineral based area, right? And simultaneously we have youth everywhere. So now if you just take these 3 sectors, right? So our agriculture, we have an enormous base of agriculture. In the past, as students, we have studied that, okay, this is the best canal irrigation system. It was developed, one of the largest, most complex, everything, right? But have we really taken the potential out of it, right? Have we really exploited the potential? And I do remember 20 years ago, we would study in terms of business history that, okay, let's compare Pakistan agri sector, the resources that we have, and compare it to Holland. Holland is such a small market, exports to the world, and why we cannot do that, right? So from that angle, I believe another pivot is, or rather another thing is, we're trying to jumpstart the engine, economic engine of Pakistan, and I think people who are involved in agriculture, maybe they will not be able to really get into the IT, or perhaps some of the youth bulge in the rural areas that may not be able to get engaged in the agriculture part. We can still, rather than pushing them into urban areas, they can directly get engaged into the IT side and export side, and we need FDI, if not FDI, remittances coming in, right? So I think from that angle, this initiative is a great initiative in terms of its breadth.
Right, Dr. Bhatt, what's your understanding of the pivot point out of all these sectors which have been identified under SIFC, which one of all these can actually work as a pivot point. Do you agree with the other two participants? They are both of the view that information technology, particularly at this point in time, can be of utmost importance in that regard.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't I agree? Because of the fact that the world is facing scarcity of food, and there are food related challenges. So I think for me, the first and the foremost is the agriculture sector. But before I speak on that sector, I would like to highlight few important aspects in order to actually recommend SIFC for taking certain steps incrementally. And the first and the foremost is because we've been working on regulatory guillotine, we've been working on the ease of doing business initiative, and we have done very well on that. So I think the digital connectivity of all the nodes is the first thing that FCFC should work on, so that if an investor invests, he clearly is aware of where his case of approvals are, how is our NOC regime working, because our NOC required for setting up industry, and any industry, even agriculture, services industry, IT-based industry, the number of NOCs and the regulatory regime is for investors. And when they compare it with our competitors like Bangladesh, like Malaysia, India, and even China, I think they find it more cumbersome, challenging. So I think SAFC should work on deregulating our economy, deregulating our overall structure of investment attraction. And the best case for that, sir, is using these special economic zones. You have those center of excellence, small area, apply that, deregulate them, provide them utilities, bring in the industry that you require, which is a focus area, and then support that industry through the whole of government approach. Because if you do not have the whole of government approach, any great initiative, even like SIFC, can fail. The second point is that even in the agriculture sector or the mines and mineral sector, which can be our priority areas for SIFC, because some of the agriculture zones are in the far-flung area. But the most important aspect is, and that is some of the challenges that we have, is connecting the rural economy with the urban economy. So if you work on the agriculture sector, if you work on the mines and minerals, even if you work on the services industry, e-commerce, I think you can provide the kind of support that we need to, bring the investment and support our overall economy. Because in order to attract investment, you first have to work on the narrative, because we keep speaking about IT sector, we keep speaking about our initiative, but when you actually work on its implementation, the challenges grow as we speak. So I think they need to remove their roadblocks. That should be the first and the foremost task of SIFC. They have identified those sectors, and when they work on these sectors, they should work on the investors who have already invested in Pakistan, like the Chinese CPEC, and also explore the potential within CPEC. Say, for example, we're working on agriculture. We have the joint working group on agriculture. We're working on IT. We have the joint working group on science and technology. All we have to do is to connect the dots. It's very simple. All is required is, again, I'll repeat, the whole of government approach.
Right.
From outside, we should look like one Pakistan and not six Pakistan.
Right, Dr. But there is another development. Dr. Umar Saif has said that 5G services will be launched by July and August this year, and also saying that the caretaker government has successfully achieved 13 goals out of 15 set to promote the IT sector and increase its exports within a brief period of 5 months. Another important development related to it is that the caretaker government worked with the SIFC and the State Bank to make a significant policy intervention, allowing IT companies to keep 50% of their export revenue in dollars in an account in Pakistan and make their international expenses without any restriction from this amount. Now, all these mentions by caretaker Federal Minister for Information Technology and Telecom, how significant are these? Don't they speak volume of how rapidly and at a greater pace the things are moving in the right direction when it comes to IT sector and associated dividends?
I've been following Umar Saif's work, and I think he's done phenomenal work as far as our IT sector is concerned. Not just, again, just on the numbers that he's been speaking about, connecting, but what he's done is that he's actually showcased the true potential of Pakistan to the outside world. And in the road shows that he's gone, he's spoken like a true professional and given concept of how we can connect to the rest of the world through this IT sector. The only benefit that for us in Pakistan, COVID has done to us is actually revival of our e-commerce and the IT industry. Because while people were sitting, at home because of COVID having restriction, they were able to work on IT sector. And also believe is that this is the best case for providing the women empowerment what we need in businesses, because these businesses in the IT sector can support women who can work from their homes and perhaps promote the IT industry. The numbers are significant. The growth is hugely nice. What I would just suggest is that everything that we are working on, everything that we are promoting, and all the promises we are making, I hope we can leverage them when the new government comes. We keep speaking about the political economy and the benefits of political economy. I think one of the challenge that we have in terms of political economy is the continuity. Any sector will forgive us if we do not do continuity, but IT sector, if we do not continue on the trajectory we are moving, I think our next generation will not excuse us.
Right, Dr. Waleed, when we talk about these mentions by Dr. Umar Saif, your understanding, aren't these phenomenal, the pace of the progress in this particular IT sector, as it is going under SIFC in particular?
Well, let me just give you an example in terms of IT sector development, what wonders IT sector can play. Everybody knows.
I see your partner. Let me just add one more point. The launch of 5G. Yeah. How big an impetus it is going to be?
Well, I would say that faster internet and in terms of 5G, that would open avenues not only in one sector or one particular sector, it would connect other sectors as well. I was giving you an example how IT can play a role. We all know about WhatsApp. WhatsApp was sold about 19 billion USDs. Our foreign exchange reserves do not have 19 billion USDs. So one single app in terms of IT that can alter the fate of a nation. So we need to invest in that. We need to integrate in such a way that our manpower or demographic dividend or youth bulge is associated with this growth in IT, so that it can relate it
and
to
that
it.
Also, and that unfortunately short of time, there is very other important aspect that I have to bring into the discussion also, that export of skills only, not only in terms of physical. Your quick take on that.
Because the world is changing. We cannot simply export our manpower which is not equipped. We need to need assess in terms of that as well. So we need to equip our manpower and then export, so that we can have this more and more remittances coming into Pakistan.
Right, Mr. Haider, how bigger an impetus it is going to give with the launch of the 5G to the IT sector?
To the IT sector, again, in terms of 5G, it takes us into a different space, right? And I would rather put it in a different sense in terms of competition. When the world has moved on to a higher standard, if we as a country we are not operating on 5G, so suddenly people will start breaking away from us in terms of the IT, because if we cannot connect at the same speed, if we cannot, because you see all of the apps, you see, as the computing capacity increased, right, all of the programs became more heavier, they required more memory and things like that. Similarly, everything will shift to that. So in terms of video conferencing and everything, so everything will shift to 5G and remote working, and that really plays into.
That will definitely provide a better digital connectivity also.
Of course. Right. Many times and faster.
That would actually help in this particular ecosystem with the inclusion of all these sectors to be more sustainable in the longer run. Is that so?
Of course, because also in terms of Internet of Things, right? So different things operating independently.
Let me bring in the last point, Dr. Bhatt. Unfortunately, we're short of time. There is another development that is going to happen tomorrow. Pakistan will sign a joint venture. When we specifically talk about mines and minerals, that is also a key area under SIFC. Now, Pakistan will sign a joint venture agreement between Pakistan Mineral Development Corporation and United States Mineral Salt Collective Incorporation also. Now, rock salt industry, what are the promises that it offers to Pakistan?
Signing of the MOU for joint venture, I think it's important. It's setting the stage for more of such MOUs to come, because in the mining sector, in the mineral sector, we have huge potential. On the rock salt, I think even if we work on this particular item, add value to it, export it, I think we can work on an export which could be around or $2 billion US. And I would again refer, when you this salt, I think for Pakistan it has been it's building the right kind of narrative. It's building the kind of image that we require, and also giving the outside world an idea of the potential in the mining sector we have. We worked on Recordeg, we worked on other similar projects. I hope this can work, and again, the government can support it till implementation and till operation of this. And I would also just like to refer to one more point which was discussed earlier. I think one of the challenges that we have right now is the productivity of our labor. Even in terms of exporting that labor and its utilization in these industries, and especially high-tech industries which are coming our way. I think we need to embrace the technology. For us, when we talk of 5G, I think we should also be careful and perhaps highlight the just distribution of technology. So when you cross, perhaps when you enter GT road or when you enter motorway, I think your connectivity from 4G to becomes 3G, and when you move towards
Dr. Ali, your quick comment regarding this joint venture regarding the rock salt.
Well, I would say Pakistan should explore mines and minerals, not only rock salt, but other avenues as well in terms of green transition, green minerals as well. Particularly in terms of rock salt, we should focus on developing finished products with it and export, not in the raw form, so that we can double, triple or
right,
revenues.
Mr. Haider, how big a promise does it carry with itself, the rock salt here from Pakistan, in this particular, the significance of this joint venture?
I think rock salt is something, again, pink Himalayan salt, I mean, it has been a lost opportunity for 75 years. But to me, the biggest story is not that. To me, the biggest story is signing of a $200 million MOU. And why that is significant, we've talked about FDI being in the range of $200 million. This is a single investment, and it's just about rock salt. So, and given the political turmoil we have recently been in, right? So this is proof of the concept of SIFC,
right,
because this is providing stability. So even in these rocky times, we are getting these kind of MOUs.
Right.
So this it shows that inshallah things will move on.
International confidence in the policies of Pakistani authorities. Mr. Sultan Ali Haider, expert political economy, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Khalid, waleed, economist at SDPI, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Dr. Hassan, Daud, Bhatt, former CEO KP Board of Investment. Dr. Bhatt, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourself.